the topic of today is we only serve God when we serve people. We only serve God when we serve people. We cannot, there is no service to God without service to man. There is no service to God without serving man. We only serve God when we serve people. Remember that. We only serve God when we serve people. And that is very important. Now, can you imagine what our own idea of service is? Most of us believe that we serve God only when we go to the mass, if you are a Catholic, or when you go to the service, when you go to church, if you are a Protestant. We go to church every Sunday to serve God. Well, I'm not sure about that. And some of us who are really very enthusiastic and very religious and very pious and very righteous and very holy and really very passionate about our faith, most of us try to serve in the church. Some of us serve as ushers. Some of us serve as choir members. Some of us serve as children workers. And we try to do our best. But really, the best kind of service that God will accept from every one of us is when we serve people. You know, all of us, we want to serve the God that we don't see, the God that is so far, the God that is so, abstract. You know, so we like this idea of serving God abstractly. Oh, I'm serving God. I serve God. I know God. What do? Well, I go to church. Well, I try to do something in my church. Some people actually equate serving God with money. Well, I give some money to people. I give money to church. That's my service. Well, you cannot really serve God that you don't see if you don't pay attention to people that you see. Now, let's look at the scripture. Do you remember the situation when Jesus Christ actually washed the feet of his disciples? What do you think he was doing? What do you think the lesson was? Because I actually know there are some denominations right now all over the world that is what they do. They actually physically try to wash the feet of their members, and they wash each other's feet. Nothing bad about that. If you like it, please go ahead and do it. But the real lesson that Jesus is trying to teach us in that story is that it is about people. Even though Jesus himself is the Son of God, not just the Son of God, Jesus is God all by himself. And despite that, he will not bypass people. And some people think, no, Jesus, you are too important to pay attention to ordinary people like us. You are too important to begin to serve us and wash our feet. Jesus didn't think that way, because if there are people, according to Jesus, these people are made in the image of God. And these people carry God's likeness. And whatever he's doing for them, he's actually doing for God. So by Jesus washing the feet of his disciples, he was actually washing the feet of God. Because God is in every person. The nature of God is in every man. So by Jesus showing us that example, that each time we sacrifice ourselves, our time, our resources, our energy to serve man, that we are actually serving God in heaven. You remember that situation when some of the disciples, especially Peter, came and said, no, you cannot wash my feet. You are too big for that. Master, you don't wash my feet. I wash your feet. And Jesus said, no, I'm not going to allow you to stop me. And Jesus went ahead and did what he needed to do. Why? Because he knows the importance of service to man. So Jesus did all kinds of services. Jesus served men in various forms. But to bring the point home, to really know how important this is, and for us to be able to learn from it, Jesus went ahead to do something physical, washing in those days, most people don't wear shoes. Most people didn't have shoes. Only wealthy and rich people had sandals. And for you to even wear a sandal, you've got to be a master. You've got to be the head of the family or the head of a business. You've got to be a landowner. You've got to be somebody that is well-to-do. So most of these disciples probably did not have shoes. So, and Jesus was, you don't wear shoes. Your feet have gathered all kind of dirt every day on the way. And Jesus was using his bare hands. Bear in mind, I don't think he was wearing some gloves. I'm not sure he was wearing some gloves those days. And then he used his hands to wash all those dirt from the feet of these people. It's not like today. When you wash the feet of people today, you just remove their feet from the shoe, from their shoes. It's not the same. So Jesus was ready to do anything for a human being. What is the lesson for us today? For you to serve God, for you to really prove to God and impress God that you are serious about serving him, you need to begin to pay attention to ordinary people, humans, and begin to extend your service to them. It is when you serve people that you convince God truly that you want to serve him. It is only when you pay attention to people, when you begin to serve them with your gifts, with your talents, with your resources, with your time, when you begin to give your love to ordinary people, that is when you convince God that, God, I'm not doing this just for you to be able to bless me, or for you to be able to give me something, or for you to be able to show me for me to show you how good I am, or, I'm doing this because I love you. And if I love you, I love your creation. If I love you, I love your people. And I am ready to do anything for your people just to prove my love for you. And when you can prove your love for God, not by doing something directly to God, because you don't see God, he doesn't complain about anything against you, he cannot, you don't feel guilty. But when people who offend you from day to day, people who don't treat you well, when people who don't give you anything, who cannot contribute to your life, when people who maybe even have done bad things to you, when you begin to consider them, and because of the love of God, you begin to go out of your way to serve them, to do something good to them, to be kind to them, that is when you really prove to God, and God is convinced that, yeah, this person is really serious. Now, let me give you other examples. That's not the only example I would like to talk about. You remember Abraham had a situation. And the challenge of Abraham was that he was childless. And the wife, Sarah, was barren. They were childless. They didn't have children. And even though God appeared to Abraham and promised him that he was going to have a child, but yet the child never came. And God promised him, even though God gave him his word of promise, but the child never came. So at what moment, if you want to study the Bible, at what point did the baby come? Did the promised child arrive in the life of Abraham? That promised baby only came after Abraham got this revelation that it's good that he has been serving people. He has left his country about 25 years ago, and he's been faithful to serve God. He's been obedient to God all he could, but the promised child was not coming. And that promised child only came after Abraham did something. One day, Abraham was sitting in his tent, and then he noticed that there were some strangers, some men, free men, passing by his tent. And the Bible told us that day was a particularly hot day. It was a hot weather. And if he was at home feeling the heat, and if you've been to Israel, you know what kind of heat could be in Israel. So it was hot. It was a hot day. And he was feeling the heat on his own. And here are these sojourners or travelers that were passing by and without water or anything. And he didn't know they were angels, but he got the revelation. I believe God revealed to him, even though you've been serving me, Abraham, I like that. I love what you've been doing. But are you really doing this for me to give you that baby? Are you really doing your service to me because I promised to make you father of nations, or because I promised to give you a land? Is that why we are doing this? Maybe you have some ulterior motives. If you are really in love with me, if you don't really care about you doing it for me or for other people, if you really love me, let's show it. If you love God for real, you will love people. There is no way you will love God that you will not love people. It's just not possible. When you love God for real, you will recognize God in people. You will feel the compassion of God for people. You will have the heart of God. And God is a compassionate God. God is a merciful God. So Abraham had compassion upon all these three men that were walking in the sun. So what did he do? He offered them to come into him, at least to drink some water. Then he fed them, he gave them good meal. And, then it was only at that point he didn't know that they were angels. It was only after he recognized God in people, and he began to serve them with what he had. He served them with the water he had. He served them with his kindness. He served them with his hospitality. When he served ordinary men that he didn't know, not when he served God, not when he brought sacrifice to God, not even when he proved to God that he was ready to leave his country and and made a huge sacrifice. Not even after that that God sent to fulfill his promise. God fulfilled the promise to give him a child only after he recognized God in ordinary men. Only after he recognized that serving God means serving men. Only after he stopped just looking to heaven to serve God that he is not saying, and begin to serve humans, ordinary people that he sees. I don't care, my friends, how many times you go to church. I don't care what you do in that church. I don't care how many songs you sing in that church. Those things are good. But when you come out of that church, do you notice human beings that are around you? What do you do with them? What are the acts of kindness? How do you show to people that you love God? What are the things that you do to meet the needs of people around you? What are you doing to meet the needs of your community? What are you doing to meet the needs of the destitute, the poor, the disadvantaged, and the disenfranchised people in your community, in your city, in your country? What are you doing? It's about noticing noticing people's needs and meeting them. You serve God. Yeah, we all want to serve God. Everybody is writing me on daily basis. How can I serve God? How can I find out my ministry? How can I do this and that? But not too many of them want to think that their ministry is people. Can you imagine? The Son of God, Jesus, did not just wash the feet of men. He actually died for people. Why? Because God is in people. People carry God's image. People carry God's likeness. And God is interested that we will pay attention to them. And we will serve them just like we will serve him. That's why the only commandment in the New Testament says to love God with all your heart and to love your neighbor as yourself. Only one commandment, but with two sides. Your proof of love for God is seen in your service to men. So when Abraham got this revelation and he began to serve these angels, before they left, they released the word of prophecy to him and said, that child that you've been waiting for, that thing that God promised you, that you're going to become father of nations, now that you have done this, next year when we come back, you are going to have that child. I mean, at this point, the evil Abraham has given up hope. Especially Sarah. You remember what happened? Sarah laughed. She couldn't believe it. That's why they called the name of their child Isaac, because they said, God has given me laughter. Of course, she didn't. She tried to deny it. I didn't laugh. I didn't smile. I didn't laugh. I was just, but she laughed because it was so unbelievable. We've been waiting for 24 years. And you say you come back next year that we're going to have that child? Who are you? Well, that's what happens when you serve God by serving people. I don't know what problem you might be facing right now. I don't know what your challenges are. Maybe you're having some challenges. Maybe you're having some problems in your life. You look around you. Go look for people that have needs. Go look for people that are worse or in worse situation than you. And try just to open your heart. Even if it's going to be your smile that you're going to give to somebody. Even if it's going to be handshake you're going to give to somebody. An embrace or a bread or some water. Just make sure you notice people and serve them with your heart as much as you can. What am I doing right now? I'm trying to serve you. I'm trying to serve people. I don't care who comes. Some people might like it. Some people might not like it. I'm doing my best. I know God is in people. I know God died for people. I know people are important to God. So I'm coming out using my device and the technology that I have near me. Everybody has it. So use my gift to serve somebody somewhere. No matter what your problem and your trouble is, when you begin to serve people, you will discover all your solutions are in people. All your answers are in people. All the miracles and the breakthrough that you need will come through people. Hardly will God send help from heaven directly. I mean, God will not send money from heaven directly to you in the U.S. or in Nigeria, but God will send people to use to help you, but not necessarily those people that you have served. You go ahead and serve ordinary people, people who cannot say thank you to you, people who cannot give back to you. Then God will find all the other people who will be able to give back to you. God will find other people that He will use to bless you. So just like in the case of Abraham and Sarah, they served people, and God brought their miracles to them. Maybe that miracle that you've been expecting, maybe that prayer needs that you've been praying and directing to God. Maybe now you need to begin to direct your attention to men, and begin to notice them, and begin to love them, and begin to serve them, and begin to help them, and begin to do what you can do to support as many people that you can as possible. It doesn't have to be something big. It doesn't have to be something spectacular. You can just use whatever you have to try to minister to people. That is what Christianity is about. That's why Jesus said, only by this will men know that you are my disciples, if you have love one for another. You only serve God when you serve people. Remember that. We only serve God when we serve people. And of course, you all remember the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. What do you think happened in Sodom and Gomorrah? What happened? That's the same story. These same people, Abraham, he was ministering to ordinary, these same men, just these same men, ordinary men. He didn't know they were angels. And they revealed to him the secret of their journey. They revealed to him what they are planning to do. And what they were planning to do is to go and destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. And because Abraham understood God enough that God is in people and miracles happen through people, and to serve God is to serve people. Because he served these people, they decided to reveal to him their secret mission to Sodom and Gomorrah. And thanks to that service, you know what? A whole family was saved. Not just a whole family. A whole household was saved. I mean, whole nations came out of that salvation. Lot was saved and his whole household just because of that. You don't know what salvation is coming to you when you begin to serve people. You don't know what deliverance will come to you when you begin to serve people. Just begin to serve people. There are miracles waiting for you. Begin to notice people. There are wonders waiting for you. Begin to, to just serve as you can, and God will begin to serve you. When you serve people, God begin to serve you back. That's what happens, and those are wonderful experiences. But also, you remember the story of Rahab? Rahab? Yeah, I think it's Rahab. Rahab the prostitute. In the Bible, I think she's called harlot. Rahab the harlot, the prostitute. These men that were on mission from God, they were spies that were sent into the city by God. But because this lady, even though people look at her and say she's a prostitute, what kind of prostitute? Everybody looks down at prostitutes, not just in those days, even today. All of us are guilty of that. We look at people who have some weaknesses or who have some sins in their lives, and we say, oh, you are a sinner, you are a prostitute. Well, the prostitute might be better than some of us. That person that we are calling a prostitute could be better than us. Why? Because in this kingdom, God cares more about your heart rather than what you are doing externally. Because, a prostitute might not know better, or she must just have some problem that she's trying to resolve that way. But when she began to serve people, our prostitution stopped, our predicament stopped, our sorrow ended, your wayward way of life came to an end, because God delivered not just her from death and from destruction. God delivered her from the sinful lifestyle she was living, only because of one thing, because she decided to serve people with her home, with her kindness, and just by opening the door of her home to these strangers, God sent salvation to her. That God is going to send salvation to the house and to the household, to the family, to the life of somebody today, just because you will begin to notice people's needs, to notice people that you could help, that need your help, that are desperate, that are destitute, and maybe people who are strangers, especially orphans and widows and strangers. And God said we should care for these kind of people. And for the poor, and these are kind of people. This is pure religion. That is what true faith in God is. So if you are a believer, I want to challenge you that your belief is not just your vertical relationship between you and God. Your faith in God has to be also horizontal, and that has to be in how you relate to people in your life or around you. So we serve God only when we serve people. If we serve God only and we don't notice people, that's not service to God, really. The real service to God is when it involves real people, people that are in need.